Good morning and welcome everyone to this month's CEBRA webinar, or CEBRAnar as they are commonly known. My name is Jessica May and I'm the Director of the Research and Innovation section within Biosecurity Strategy and Reform Division here at DAF. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people as traditional custodians of the land many of us are meeting on today, and recognise any other people or families with connection to the lands of the ACT and region. I wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this city and region. I extend that recognition to the traditional custodians of all other lands on which our attendees are gathered today, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people attending today's webinar. So we have many attendees from many different places joining us here today, so feel free to pop in the chat the lands where you are joining us from if you'd like to acknowledge the country you're joining from. Before we begin, can we please ensure everyone's microphones are on mute and cameras are off? Today's session will be recorded and made available on CEBRA's YouTube channel. There will be an opportunity to ask questions after the presentation by either using the hand up gesture or posting a question in the chat panel. You can post in the chat panel as we go and I will come back to it at the end. So for any newcomers today, the Centre of Excellence for Biosecurity Risk Analysis, CEBRA, is a long-standing biosecurity research initiative hosted by the University of Melbourne. CEBRA provides the Australian and New Zealand governments with expert biosecurity risk analysis and advice that helps inform biosecurity risk management activities. Today we will hear from Dr. Estibaliz Palma, Research Fellow at the University of Melbourne. Esti is an applied quantitative ecologist whose research develops methods and tools to support evidence-based environmental decision-making across biosecurity, biodiversity and conservation, and applied ecology. Her work combines ecology, statistical modelling, risk analysis and environmental science to deliver practical solutions for government decision-making. Today's CEBRAnar will explore the eradication feasibility tool and how it supports collaborative evaluation, structures feasibility assessments, identifies consensus and evidence gaps, and how it can be adapted to changing situations. Dr. Palmer will also highlight the tool's validation with industry partners using retrospective case studies and its role in supporting stakeholders with eradication feasibility decisions. So please join me in welcoming Esti, and I will now hand over to you to get started.
Thank you, Jessica. So I'm assuming that my screen is visible for everyone?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay,
ready to go.
Great. Thank you very much for confirming that. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Esti, as Jessica said. I've been working with CEBRA now for a few years as a research fellow, and I'm very excited to finally be here today presenting some of my work. Today, I'll be talking about a virtual tool that we've developed to help stakeholders make decisions around feasibility of eradication during incursions. So when an incursion is uncovered, this triggers a response, an emergency response. And this means that decisions need to be made towards, how we respond, how we manage this incursion. These decisions very often have to be made really quickly and without a large amount of hard evidence available to do so. So the uncertainty regarding these decisions is usually quite high. In the case of planned pest response, decisions regarding feasibility of eradication lay with the CCEBP, or the Consultative Committee on Emergency Plant Pests. In doing so, this committee needs to consider a multitude of stakeholders, including federal government, including jurisdictions, including industry representatives. Industry representatives usually who could be impacted by this incursion, but also industries who might be expected to share the cost of responding to the incursions, as well as other experts. Anyone who might have an expertise that is relevant for a particular incursion can be included, can be called into waiting into this decision, to making this decision. So to streamline all this process and bring all these relevant voices together, we developed a virtual tool in collaboration with our colleagues in the department. And our aim with this tool was to provide support to make decisions around feasibility of eradication in a consistent, transparent, and robust way. So even though this project obviously was a direct collaboration between some of us in CEBRA and Lisa and Susie from the department, I would like to acknowledge that there were plenty other collaborators who were instrumental in shaping and testing a prototype of this tool. So we organized a workshop where we had we had people from obviously the department and jurisdictions, people from Plant Health Australia, and some industry representatives as well. And they were really generous in providing feedback, in guiding us in terms of what they think might be really valuable for them and useful, not only in terms of the format and the content of this tool, but also on terms of which outputs they found or they find really useful for making these decisions. And then we were very lucky that some of these government and industry representative tested a prototype that we developed, the initial prototype of the tool, and in particular, many other industry representatives took part on this testing, and obviously they provided further feedback in terms of how to action the tool, how the criteria were presented, etc. So that was really useful. Great, but before I jumped into sharing the tool with you, obviously I would like to acknowledge that there's been a lot of work done in this space before CEBRA even took a seat on the table, right? So obviously, a lot of work, a lot of people within the department, beyond the department, who have developed a lot of aspects of how to respond to incursions. A good example is Plant Plan, because Plant Plan already presents a series of criteria that have to be looked at when we are deciding whether eradication is feasible or not, including, as you can see here, the biology of the species, what are the circumstances of the incursion, what is the capability that we have in Australia to detect the species, to respond to it, what would be the acceptance of tackling the incursion with a specific control method, etc. Sorry. Also, it's important to acknowledge that a lot of the content that we present in the tool, as well as the general structure, you will see it's divided in different modules. That was borrowed or that was built on a previous tool that had been developed earlier. With the same objective, just to provide support for this type of decision making. This tool was developed in Microsoft Excel, and one of the barriers that we wanted to break down with this project is that it was a little bit difficult to engage the stakeholders with this tool. All right, so I'm going to show you a video. I think that's the easiest way for you guys to see the tool in action. For this video, we are going to have James here. James is going to be our stakeholder who has been invited to wade into, its eradication feasible for this particular incursion. So the way James is going to wade into that decision is by taking a survey through the tool that we develop. And remember, as I said before, James could be someone from the federal government. He could be someone from a jurisdiction where the incursion has been uncovered. He could be an industry representative. He could be an expert. So he might have a different role, but every stakeholder provides their input in a similar way. So, all right. I think I'm going to start the video. The first thing that happens when James signs into the tool is that he arrives to the user dashboard. And the user dashboard gives a little bit of an idea of, I'm going to stop and start the video as I go to explain a little bit. I hope that's okay. So this dashboard gives a good idea or a brief idea of how many times or in how many incursions James has been invited to wade in to provide his knowledge through these statistics here. So there are a few case studies where he's been involved. He's completed some of them are in progress, and some of them he needs to start. So today he's going to start a new survey for the polyphagous whole bird. So he hits start survey, and that brings him to the tool itself. So I guess the first thing that I would like to highlight here is that the tool has different sections. We find an instructions tab first, then we have a background information or context, then the survey itself, and then there are two tabs that provide the outputs, which I'll explain a little bit later. So the first one is obviously the instructions tab, and this just provides an overview of how the tool is structured, how it works, the modules, what sort of questions, and how to answer those questions and the output that it provides. After that, we go into the background information, and this tab is designed to allow the administrators of the tool, so whoever is coordinating the response, provide some context, provide some information with the idea. And this can be any information. It can be information about the incursion itself, about the plant pest itself. It can be maps. It can be links to external documents or sites. So this is quite flexible in terms of what the admins decide to share. But the idea behind it is that all the stakeholders have access to the same information. So in a way, everyone starts from a shared baseline in terms of taking the survey. All right, let's move on. So James might access that with that file and then continue to the survey. All right, I'll stop it there for a second. So I guess the first thing to mention is that the survey is divided in modules, 6 modules. I'll comment on that a little bit later, but every module is designed in the same way. Each of them has a series of questions, and all these questions are answered in a similar fashion. So James might read the statement and he might agree with it. He might disagree with it, or he might not have enough information to agree or disagree. If he disagrees with a statement, this prompts a pop-up menu, let's say, which will be that one that just disappeared, asking him to choose why he disagrees with a statement. See, that's the pop-up menu there. And then once the options are visible, he might choose one or multiple of them, or he might choose other and add his own. So that's also an option. And as you can see, as he is answering the question and filling out this survey, on this right part of the screen and in real time, he can get he gets that visual traffic light system summary of his responses. I stopped it there because I want you guys to see this last question. So for every module, there is one last question that asks, in this case, James, to provide an overall assessment of whether he thinks that eradication would be feasible for this particular module, which these modules are focused on a theme. So is eradication feasible for this particular theme? So then he will select yes, no, or not sure. And then the tool, if he says yes or no, it's going to ask him, or how confident you are about that answer. And then he can go all the way from very low to very high. And that will appear in the summary as well, right? Also for each module, there is this section we added a section where the users can put down some notes. And those notes can be either private notes. So let's say James has been thinking about how, to go about a particular question, and he wants to keep track of that train of thoughts, because he thinks, well, if I come back in a month, I might not remember why I thought that. So he might want to leave some notes for himself. Those are for himself alone. But also he has the option to add some notes that he wants to actually share with the other stakeholders who are also providing input into these incursions. I don't know, an example for that might be, well, you represent an industry and you have some knowledge from that industry that maybe, people from government might not be completely aware. So you want to say, look, I said this in my survey because I know that in the past this has happened, or because I think people in the industry are going to react this way, or whatever it is that you want other stakeholders to be aware of. Good. All right, so that's module 1 finished. He's answered all the questions, put some notes there if he thinks that he has to share something, or he wants to keep something, track of something for himself. And then he moves on to the next module, and so on and so forth across 6 modules. All right. So these are the modules that we included in the tool, in the survey. The module number 1, which is the one that you saw in the video, it's identification and detection of the threat. The second module deals with aspects of the biology of the plant pest or of the threat. The next one is current circumstances of infestation. Modules 4 and 5 revolve around effectiveness and acceptability of whatever control method is suggested. And then the last module is about whether there is an ability to regulate the entry pathway for the pest. Okay, so as I said, and as I showed you before, there are 5 sections or 5 tabs in this tool. And we've gone through instructions, we've gone through the background information, the survey itself that James has filled. And then the last 2, my results, so the individual results of whoever stakeholder is filling the questionnaire or the survey, and then the combined results. So the individual results, once James has finished answering all the questions, then he can move into this tab and have a summary, the same visual summary that he was in real time getting as he was answering the questions is here for each module. There's also the possibility of downloading this, so you don't have to go online to have a look. You can download a copy and save it for your own records. And then when every stakeholder has provided their input into the tool, then the admins close the survey. This can also happen a particular date, so either or. But then the survey gets closed, and then the combined results get generated and shared with the stakeholders. There is also an option to download them through that tab as a PDF. So these combined results are divided into, well, they are structured by module as well, and each module is divided into sections. The first section is about that overall assessment, that last question of each module that I highlighted before. So is that overall assessment across stakeholders? How many of them thought that overall for that module eradication was feasibility? How many of them thought that no, probably not? And how many of them were not sure really for that module whether eradication might or might not be feasible? And then, so there is that summary by module, but then there is also the combined responses for each individual question within each modules. And it appears as something like this. It's a combination of colors. It also shows the reasons that these stakeholders might have selected for disagreeing, with one of the statements. And I don't show it here, but the shared notes are part of this document as well. And I think these documents is basically the meat and bones of the tool, because these summary is designed in a way that it's a key document for stakeholders to understand whether there is agreement across them, either in support of feasibility of eradication, in which case there'll be a lot of green, like overall speaking, or whether there is agreement that eradication is probably not feasible, and in that case will be a lot of red overall in these summaries, or for particular modules. Also, it points at whether there is a lot of disagreement, in which case there will be a mix of colors, generally speaking. And finally, it's key in highlighting where the knowledge gaps where the knowledge gaps are, which are highlighted in yellow. So any question or even a module that has a lot of yellow on it, then I guess that's a good indication that there is a knowledge gap there, and that probably needs to be addressed. Right, so that's those are the outputs that we get from the tool. Now, other capabilities of the tool. Well, so it happens when an incursion goes on. Many times, it is necessary to reevaluate a decision made earlier on, either because the circumstances have changed, or maybe because new knowledge or new evidence has become available. Something like, well, we didn't have in Australia, we didn't have a detection method available, but now we do. So now we know we are better at detecting this, let's say, plant disease. So let's take that into account. Does that change the decision now, or our view on whether eradication is feasible or not? That sort of thing. So the tool allows, again, the admins, the coordinators of the survey, to start a second round for the same survey. And if the same, or if some of the same stakeholders take part in this second survey, then they're going to find that they have this little arrow here telling them what it is that they answer for the previous round, which it's going to make things faster. It's going to make things more consistent across rounds, but also it's very good in the sense that maybe this reevaluation doesn't require reevaluating all the modules, but maybe only some of them. So the ones that you don't need to reevaluate, it's so much faster to go through them. All right. So far we've received really positive feedback and a lot of interest from the department and from jurisdiction. It's obviously early days for the tool. We just created this last year, but we are quite positive about it. The tool provides a standardized and transparent way to evaluate eradication feasibility, to support decisions regarding eradication feasibility, and pinpoints consensus, disagreement, and also knowledge gaps among stakeholders. The design of the tool is intuitive and it's user-friendly. The feedback we got from previous users, mostly during the testing of the tool, is that the time to complete was pretty reasonable, that the criteria that needed to be evaluated were clear and comprehensive. Same for the reports, for the summaries, for the outputs of the tool, that they were informative and useful in understanding where stakeholders sat regarding feasibility of eradication. Also, this tool creates automatically, so all these outputs are created automatically through the tool, so that eliminates possible manual mistakes in putting information together. The fact that the context is provided, that there is a place in the tool where you explicitly can provide information about the context in which this survey needs to be filled. I think that was received quite well, as well as the notes. The fact that the users can have a dedicated space to write down their thoughts beyond just answering the questions, or have the opportunity to share some of those thoughts with other stakeholders. The tool provides a robust way to reevaluate a decision as well, with subsequent rounds of the survey for a given incursion. And in the examples before, I mentioned a second round, but there could be a third, there could be a fourth, there could be as many as necessary, really, or as many as the coordinators think necessary. And finally, this tool provides a way, and we hope that with time, as it gets uptaken, it will provide a way to get that data in a format that maybe let us learn with time, because we will have a record of how these decisions were made for multiple incursions, and that could maybe be looked at against whether ultimately the incursion was eradicated or not. The tool is currently available in Biosecurity Commons, so it's widely accessible. There is a quick start guide over there as well, which can guide people using it for the first time. Biosecurity Commons, for those of you who are not familiar with, is an online platform that provides multiple workflows to deal with different questions, biosecurity questions for researchers, managers, people in government. And these tools might support, in this case, the eradication or decisions around feasibility of eradication. For example, our tool, I didn't mention this, our tool is, I think it's pretty clear, but our tool is qualitative, so there is no measures or anything. It's just about extracting information from the stakeholders. There are a lot of workflows in Biosecurity Commons that are quantitative in nature. So, for example, if we looked at the population spread modeling workflow, this could support the stakeholders in making decision or in evaluating whether eradication might be feasible in terms of comparing the scenarios of what happens when we mitigate the spread somehow versus what happens when we don't. So these are the sort of things that Biosecurity Commons can provide, and it might be useful to have all of those in the same place with the eradication feasibility tool, because they might be linked, or at least they might support each other. And finally, I would like to mention that even though we developed this tool with the role of the CCEPP in mind, as I said at the beginning, this tool is very flexible, and the format and the platform can be adopted to other situations and objectives. I think, broadly speaking, anytime that a decision needs to be made following a series of criteria or ideas and involving a multitude of actors, then this format could work to support that decision making. I think a very strong candidate to use this tool that is not necessarily feasibility of eradication is preparedness, because both of them are quite linked together. And the fact that and the ability to adapt this tool to other objectives and context, it's already available in the tool. So far I've been talking about the user dashboard, but there is another part of the tool that is the admin part of the tool. So the admins, who are the ones coordinating, as I mentioned, the surveys, they have their own dashboard, and as part of that dashboard, they have access to the survey template. So far we've only developed one survey template, which is the one that I've been showing you, but the admins have the option to create new templates. And these new templates can be something as simple as, well, we grab the one that is here already and we just tweak some of the questions, we tweak the modules, because we think that if we need to make decisions of feasibility of eradication for plant diseases, then we need to tick tweak some of those questions that are already there. Or if we are considering animal diseases, then we need to add a new module, something like that. Or they can create a completely new template, which means that they use the format, they use the platform, they use the structure, the nature of the outputs to support a completely different decision. Great. Well, I think that's all for me. Thank you again for being here today. And if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to hear them. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Esti. That was really interesting. We have a lot of questions already in the chat, so I will start going through them. So Alyssa asks, does it give an overall combined summary as a result from all 6 modules?
No, it doesn't. And the reason for that is that I think at the end of the day, the group coordinating the surveys who has to make that decision are the ones who have to get there. So obviously we could have provided that, but we didn't, and in conversations with the stakeholders who participate in the workshops, we didn't really see value on doing that. I think they were more interested in treating the themes semi-separately. So I think that's why we just didn't. It would have been as easy as just, providing a summary of all the responses or all the overall assessment together. But then you go into the idea of how do we weight those? Do we need to weight them? That's a whole new decision in itself. So we just decided to leave it at that and see how we go. As I say, it's early days and things might change. So.
Great. We have another question from Laura. Does the individual creating the assessment input the relevant stakeholder contacts for access, or does the result automatically become publicly accessible upon completion?
So when every user, when the users complete the survey, they get their individual survey. Each of them gets their individual one. And I think when the survey closes, then the combined results become available for everyone, for all the users. And I think they become available in the platform. And I think, I'm not that aware of this side of things, but I think they also get an email with the results. So they get immediately notified when the combined results get created. Is that right?
So when you say all users, it's only survey participants that are invited to the survey, not everyone on Biosecurity Commons.
No, only the ones who have been invited to take part of that on that survey. Yes, that's right.
So we have another one. In addition to advising TFE, can the tool help recommend management options and other approaches to building industry resilience, for example, crop diversification or genetic modification?
So the tool doesn't recommend anything, but it is true that you can, or industry in this case, or government plus industry, they could use the tool to evaluate different options. And I think that falls into maybe preparedness. That's what I was mentioning about preparedness. So if you can think of different scenarios of how you will respond to an incursion, then you run the tool for those, then you can start comparing and saying, well, what are the knowledge gaps that we need to focus on, to know, or to be truly prepared. So when it happens, we hit the ground running, as they say, right? Like we know everything that we need to know. I'm not too sure if that answers the question, but I think it's on those lines.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. So we've deliberately designed the tool to be flexible for different types of objectives. The objective that we were tasked was helping inform or facilitate discussions about feasibility of eradication, but there's other opportunities to use a similar type of survey tool for different types. As a preparedness tool, as a prioritization tool, or investigating, different types of management options. They will all have slightly different tweaks on the types of questions that will be available. And so we've deliberately designed the tool to be able to accommodate different types of survey objectives. The challenge is that you've got to come up with appropriate questions to answer stakeholders or experts and answer reliably.
Okay, great. I have another question from Alyssa. Could the create new template option be set up with the TFE criteria in Schedule 3 of the NEBRA? For example, the environmental biosecurity responses, invasive ants, weeds.
So I think that follows what Jimmy was saying, that the capability is there, but then how you translate, I'm not aware. I'm sorry, I don't know these criteria in Schedule 3 of the NEBRA, but I'm gonna assume it has sort of like a similar approach where you have some criteria you need to consider, and then based on that, and multiple people considering those, and based on that, then you need to make a decision. So like the format is there, it's about the content, I guess, then. So we haven't looked at that, but that will be something that obviously could be looked at if there is interest, and the platform is there. So half of the work is done. So
it's the same. It's ultimately the same question as before. So, for example, I know in the animal health space, they're thinking about creating a similar set of questions for feasibility of eradication for animal diseases. So, slightly different questions there because it's a different domain, different terminology. The same could definitely be done in terms of the environmental space.
Fantastic. So that's the end of the questions in the chat. If anyone else wanted to add any questions in the chat or put their hand up, I can throw to them. But I have a question I would like to ask. So bringing everyone together, so you brought together government, plant, Health Australia, industry stakeholders, and everyone for the same evaluation. Were there any challenges or benefits that happened during that process, or anything you'd like to share, learning?
I think there were a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
I was surprised how well aligned they actually were. I think we were the ones walking into the room with a different idea of, like, our idea was it had to be more quantitative, because obviously coming from CEBRA, we're very quantitative in nature. And they were the ones going like, no, actually what we need is X, Y, Z. This is what will be really helpful for us. So they were really, really good at guiding us in that way. And no, I don't remember. Obviously, you know, they came from different perspectives and different experiences, but no, actually, it worked really well. It went really well.
That's great. I love a good news story. Is there any other questions in the chat that anyone would like to raise before we wrap up? I will give everyone a second. Okay, I can't see anything coming through. So thank you so much, Esti and James, for jumping in, for sharing such valuable insights. So the recording will be available on CEBRA's YouTube channel shortly. We will pause the CEBRAnar series in August due to the CEBRA board meeting. And we also have the 20th anniversary celebrations for CEBRA. So great milestone there. Our next CEBRAnar will be in September. So please keep an eye out for the details. But thank you everyone for your engagement and being here today, and have a great rest of your day.
You too, Jessica. Thank you very much.